Okay, so Germans have 4 armaments. One is your secondaries. Your secondaries in general don't suck. They have like 26mm pen. I don't know if that holds through all tiers, but whatever. And in general, tier 8 and 10, the secondaries don't suck. Tier 4 and 6 are really inaccurate and not that great. So tier 8 and 10, you could put points into the secondary stuff with like slot 3 or maybe your commander talent. That's personal preference. AP rockets. What do AP rockets do? They get citadels. So we're going to go in on a Des Moines because the Des Moines Citadel is slightly above the waterline. We're going to start the attack before we get to the Des Moines because it's going to firm up and we're still going to have a few seconds to move. And we're going to drop right at the water's edge or maybe a little bit past it. And you can see we nail a bunch of citadels. So we get to bite into a cruiser pretty significantly. Could we do a little better than that? Probably. So let's slam on the brakes and hard turn because German rocket planes are extremely maneuverable, and then try to rush in and maybe drop that reticle in a little bit where we still get some citadels, but we do a little more damage because instead of rockets wasted in the water, they're more hitting in the ship. You're going to find the magic spot for you, and in general, the higher raised the citadel is, the better. But what happens if the Des Moines starts to turn? Well, if the Des Moines starts to turn, you're going to be trying to come in and get these citadels, but maybe you're just not going to have a good line for it. And that's going to boost the effective armor on the citadel. So we're able to get some, but we get a ricochet, and in general, we're not going to get as much damage. And the harder and the better the turn, the more likely you ricochet. Can you use the AP rockets on anything other than cruisers? Yes, you could shoot whatever the hell you want to shoot. So first off, we're going to look at the Montana and see if there's anything that we could do there. Montana is going to have a really heavy belt because it wants to protect its citadel, right? So let's take the same shot that we did against a Des Moines, but against a Montana, where we're shooting right at the waterline, where there's probably a shitload of armor, and we'll see if that actually does anything. And then the answer is we got some pens from the rockets that went high, and we got some shatters on the other ones. So in general, if we aim at the waterline, it's not going to result in a lot of damage. So what we can do is aim slightly above the waterline, so that we're either shooting into the superstructure or into the less armored upper section of the hull. So we get a lot more pens, and we did 9,000 damage, which is good for rockets. But we saw that if we're going after like a Des Moines, if you're going to throw your rockets into a battleship to get 7 to 9k damage, wouldn't it be better to throw your rockets into a cruiser to get 17 to 20? Wouldn't it be, you get more if you go after the cruiser. So if you're going to take your resources somewhere, you want to take them to where you're going to get the most value out of them. Okay, so lastly, we've got destroyers. Can we AP rocket destroyers? The answer is yes. That being said, if we hit the destroyer flat broadside, we should, theoretically, get a bunch of overpens. So there should be a destroyer around here, which there is. And we take the shot. And we get 10 overpens, 1 pen. Well, why did we get a pen? Because one rocket struck at such an angle that it actually armed the fuse. So if we remember that, and we try to go in on a destroyer at an angle, then we might be able to arm the fuse just enough that it's going to be able to prime and explode inside the hull. So we got 3 pens there. So a little more damage on that gearing as opposed to this one, but still not great. Is there a magic spot to go for? In general, probably a 30-degree shot, which we'll try to hit here. I don't know if we will, though. Maybe that's not angled enough. But it worked out. We got 7 pens. We did 8,000 damage to a DD. But note, if the DD is broadside, it's overpens. If the DD is far enough, it's ricochets. There's a very small window that you can get and actually nail that strong shot. So it might think, well, I could do 9,000 to a DD with these rockets. That's great. I'll just do that all the time. Yeah, it really depends on what the DD's doing, what your attack angle is, what the situation is, how bad the AA is. There's a lot of factors that go into it. So the Richthofen used to have the same reticle as the Parzival, but the Richthofen was overperforming. The rockets were amazing and the bombs were amazing, so that was frankly just too damn much. So the rockets are still fucking great, but the reticle got made larger. So we can put the reticle on the ship and aim and try to drop over the citadel, see where the bombs go, and they're actually really damn heavy. They're heavy enough that they can rip through a section of superstructure and still be able to detonate in the citadel and give you good pens. But sometimes when you drop, the bombs are going to go all the way out to the edge of the reticle, in which case they don't do anything useful. The earlier you drop, the better the down angle. More likely you get breaches through decks into the citadel. The later you drop, the further it pushes forward. And you can off-angle the drop by a small amount because the reticle is going to aim all the way until it arms to where you could drop. So for instance here, you might start and turn in, but as you continue to turn, you'll see the reticle starts to devalue. It gets larger. So you have a little bit of off-angle potential, but not a ton. And while we could bomb cruisers, they're much smaller than battleships, and it's hard enough to hit a battleship with these bombs because the spread really is wider than it might look. The fact that we got 2 citadels and then 2 citadels again is actually kind of rare. Plus, if you imagine the battleship is maneuvering in the middle of a match, it's going to be even worse. Against a cruiser, it's all but RNG prayer that you'll actually see any form of citadel. The last armament is going to be the torpedoes. Is there anything special about the torpedoes? In a way, yes. They're very fast. They do have a heel, but they're very accurate. If we come in and try to take a drop, we might be able to bingo a DD. Not this one. We'll go for maybe this one. Firm up. Try to take a drop. There might be a little bit of dispersion going left, right, whatever, but in general, they're going to go pretty much where the hell you place them to go. The fact that they're very fast and have the heel means you can make a quick dart in through or into AA, drop and get the hell right back out. And at least while your heel is running, you might not even lose any planes while doing it. And because you're going so damn fast, now is where you start taking AA and you're about 5 kilometers away from the target that you just dropped. So it will keep you very safe in terms of that first run because of a high velocity strike. So because they arm quickly and because they're very accurate, you can use them against destroyers, but a destroyer could just fucking turn, in which case the torps fly by and oh well. But they are fast, they are accurate, they are responsive. So AP rockets are for cruisers. Why? Because citadel damage is fucking crazy. If you get it, it's great. AP bombs are for battleships. Why? Because citadel damage is fucking crazy. If you get it, it's great. And the reticle is big, so likely you're aiming for battleships to try to hit them in the first place. You could get a citadel on a cruiser, but sometimes there's so much pen on that bomb that it may rip right through the cruiser and out the bottom without blowing up, in which case all you end up getting is an overpen. And then torps are kind of a catch-all. They're very accurate. They just don't do a lot of damage. So at least you can accurately apply damage to something. You can still bomb cruisers. You can still rocket battleships and DDs, but they're not designed for it. So your results may be suboptimal or frankly just not good enough to waste your time doing it. It's a long-form description of German armaments and stuff. Hopefully that was helpful. So rule of thumb is to never attack destroyers. I mean, you gotta attack what you gotta attack. It doesn't mean you have to like it. You don't have to like attacking a Holland, but if you have to attack the Holland, you attack the damn Holland, because that's what you gotta do. Hey, newbie. The big question is, if the destroyer is like this, you might get a good hit. If the destroyer turns in a little more, you ricochet, you don't do any damage. Yay! If the destroyer turns a little like this, you overpen and you do very little damage. So I mean, damage is more than no damage, but the question is, does it matter? And if you're losing planes while you're trying to do a thing, you want to lose planes to get the best result possible. So it is what it is. Yeah, you can get AP bomb kills on destroyers if they're low enough, sure. It's kind of a disrespect thing. It's awesome against cruisers, but how do you kill destroyers with Richthofen? You don't. I mean, the German CVs were designed, you have 3 lines, 3 tech tree lines with HE rockets. You have US line, you have Japanese line, you have the British line. All of these have high explosive rockets, which were very strong against destroyers. So they created the German line, which was not as strong against destroyers. It's literally designed to have less impact against destroyers, which means your team needs to step up and deal with the shit, because you can't deal with the shit in the same way as you could on a different carrier. It's a specifically designed weakness, and your team has to pull the slack for you. You can try to help, you can deal what damage you can deal, but you don't specialize in it, and you can be outplayed, because if they just angle to your rockets, they take no damage. If they angle this way, they take some, but not very much. In terms of torps, they just dupe the torps, and then they don't take any damage either. So, hopefully that gives you all the information you ever wanted to know, Rising Dawn. But while we're looking at this, I'm going to relink this shit. So if you go to the YouTube channel and you type in AP Rocket, there's 6 videos. These are broadside angled, so this is like what we just did. You can look at that. It's going to show you, you know, a fully broadside overpen and then an angled that actually resulted in like 9k damage. This is going to talk about the theory of how to outplay a cruiser that's hard turning because it doesn't want to get hit. That's going to describe angles and movement. This is curling. This is reticle placement for how you make those turns. And then this is the practice of how you would turn to be able to make those strikes. So that should give you all kinds of information on the German CVs, but do note, German CVs are an advanced line. It's not something people just pick up and fucking wreck with. The US and the Japanese line are the most generally applicable lines, but the US is the most general purpose, straightforwardest to play.